All right, let's talk about something that I know a lot of you have dealt with. It's that moment when you have to turn a bunch of data into a chart, and you really hope it makes sense to everyone else. Today, we're going to break down how to go from just showing data to actually telling a clear, compelling story with your charts.
You know this exact moment, right? You're in a meeting, you put your chart up on the screen, and nothing, just silence. Then the squinting starts. Someone asks you to explain the y-axis. It's that feeling where instead of getting your point across, you're stuck defending the chart itself. It's a total momentum killer.
So the big question is, how do you stop doing that? How do you get to a place where your chart does the talking for you? Well, the good news is you don't need to be a graphic designer. It's really just about shifting your whole approach from plotting data points to crafting an actual narrative.
So here's the game plan. We're going to start with something called the 30-second test. Then we'll get crystal clear on our story. After that, we'll pick the right chart for the job, get rid of all the noise, and finally, we'll nail the landing with a title that tells the whole story.
First up, the 30-second test. This is all about being realistic. You have to understand the environment where your chart is going to live, because, let's be honest, nobody's studying it with a magnifying glass.
Here's the reality. The people you're presenting to, your boss, your stakeholders, they don't live in this data every day like you do. They're busy, they're skimming. You've got maybe 30 seconds of their focused attention to get your point across before they're thinking about their next meeting. Your job is to design for that person.
Okay, so knowing you only have about 30 seconds, this brings us to the absolute most important part of this whole process. It's the one question you have to answer before you do anything else.
And that question is, what's the story? What is the one single thing you want your audience to walk away knowing? Seriously, if they remember nothing else, what's the headline? You have to nail this down before you even dream of opening up your spreadsheet software.
So here's a little challenge for you. Before you make your next chart, try to write down its main point in one simple sentence. If you're struggling, if you can't do it, that's a huge red flag that you're not ready to visualize anything yet. You need more clarity first.
So once you have your story locked in, now we can think about the fun part, picking the right kind of chart. And this is crucial because the type of chart you choose can either perfectly support your story or completely undermine it.
Think of this as your quick cheat sheet. If you're comparing different groups, say sales by product, a bar chart is almost always your best bet. If you want to show how something changed over time, like website traffic per month, you want a line chart. A scatter plot is great for showing how two things relate to each other. And a pie chart, well, that's for showing parts of a whole. But you got to be really careful with those.
And this is where so many people go wrong. Pie charts look nice, but they're really only good for one thing: showing simple, obvious proportions with just a few slices. The second you have more than, say, 5 categories, or you need people to see the subtle differences between them, just use a bar chart. It's way clearer every single time.
Okay, you've got your story, you've picked the right chart. Now for my favorite part, and it's the one that feels a little counterintuitive. We're going to start taking things away. It's all about subtraction.
You know, when you first create a chart in Excel or Google Sheets, the default settings are, well, they're not great. They're usually full of what I call visual noise. Heavy borders, dark grid lines, weird shadows. All that stuff just gets in the way of your data. It makes your audience work way too hard.
So you need to be ruthless. What's got to go? Get rid of the chart border. Lighten those grid lines way up, or just delete them. And please, no 3D effects. Also, that legend, if you can just put the labels right on the chart itself, do that and ditch the legend. It stops your audience's eyes from having to jump all over the page.
So I call this the 3-step clarity pass. Step 1, remove all the junk. Step 2, use color with a purpose. Make most of the chart a neutral gray and then use one single bright color to highlight the most important part of your story. And step 3, label your data directly so it's impossible to misinterpret.
Now, I want to talk about one single number. Just one. But it's a number that can make or break the trust your audience has in you, especially with one of the most common charts out there.
And that number is 0. Here's the deal. For any bar or column chart, the value axis must start at 0. This is a golden rule. It is not a suggestion. Why? Because our brains instinctively judge the value by the length of the bar. If you start the axis at, say, 50, just to exaggerate a difference, you're distorting the data. It's misleading, and it's one of the fastest ways to lose all your credibility. All right, this brings us to the final step. And honestly, this might be the most powerful one of all. This is where you put the conclusion right in front of your audience, so there is zero guesswork involved.
Your chart's title is the most valuable piece of real estate on the whole slide. Do not waste it with something boring like sales data Q1 to Q4. That tells me the topic, not the point. Instead, write a title that is the takeaway. Sales increased 23% in Q4 after new pricing strategy. Bam! You've answered the so what question before they even had a chance to ask it.
And for the final touch, add an annotation, a simple little text box that points to a spike on your chart and says, "New feature launched," or "Price change here." This is what connects the dots for your audience. It turns your chart from just showing what happened into a story explaining why it happened.
So let's bring it all home. This is your new best friend. It's a checklist for every chart you make from now on. Does the title tell the story? Are you using one accent color to make the point pop? Do your bar charts start at 0? Run through this list and I guarantee you will pass that 30-second test with flying colors.
So look, at the end of the day, your data is trying to tell you something. It's full of stories about what's working, what's not, and where the big opportunities are. The only question left is, are the charts you're making helping to tell that story, or are they just getting in the way? The choice is totally up to you.